You think you know who you live with. You think you recognize the faces around you, that you can sense when someone's toxic, when the room shifts, when a conversation starts to drain your soul. But one day, you wake up and realize you lost. You lost energy. You lost clarity. You lost identity without even noticing when it started. You're in the middle of an emotional war you never knew had begun. And the scariest part? The enemy never screamed. They smiled. They praised you. They hugged you. Because not every threat comes with teeth. Some show up with teary eyes. Some even carry your last name. Carl Jung warned us, the real danger doesn't come from extreme behavior, but from invisible incongruence, from the unconscious mind that manipulates, distorts, and acts without knowing it's acting. And when that shadow enters your life, the damage isn't loud, it's deep. You start blaming yourself for pain that was never yours. You twist your personality just to maintain a peace that was never your responsibility. You let someone take up space inside your mind and rewrite your story. In this video, we're going underground. We'll uncover the 6 most dangerous personalities you can live with, not because they're evil, but because they're being run by forces they don't even see, forces that use you as a mirror, that mold you in silence, and if you don't wake up, they'll turn you into someone you never meant to be. But here's the warning, this isn't just about them. Maybe you've already been one of these figures, and if you're brave enough to look, this video might be your breaking point. Are you ready to see? Because after this, you might never look at certain people the same way again. And maybe, just maybe, you'll stop hiding from yourself too. In the next chapter, we'll meet the most dangerous person to those who love too much. The one who doesn't attack. They cling. They don't wound with malice. They shape you with need. The unconscious manipulator. Have you ever felt guilty for a pain that wasn't yours? Like you were always apologizing, always over-explaining, always balancing someone else's emotional chaos, all in the name of love? If so, you might be living with the most subtle of emotional predators, the unconscious manipulator. Forget the classic image of the cold, calculated villain. This one doesn't yell. He pleads, he cries, he shows you his brokenness. And you believe you were chosen to save him. But you weren't. You were captured. The unconscious manipulator doesn't want control. He wants salvation. But he demands it so intensely that love becomes a prison. You start to shrink, to censor yourself, to walk on emotional eggshells, tiptoeing around wounds that don't even belong to you. And the more you care, the more you disappear. Jung explained, everything that remains unconscious is projected, and the manipulator projects all his wounds onto you. You become the villain, the hero, the parent, the guilty one, everything except yourself. At first it feels like empathy. You want to help. You want to be the one who understands. You think it's love, but it's not love. It's psychic colonization. You're no longer living for yourself. You're living as an extension of someone else's pain. And the scariest part, it's silent. He doesn't force you. He convinces you with glances, with guilt, with well-timed absences that make you feel responsible. Before you know it, you can't say no without shame. You can't make decisions without checking if they'll hurt him. You can't recognize yourself in the mirror. You start measuring your words, avoiding topics, swallowing feelings.
smiling just to keep the peace. But that smile isn't yours. It's survival protocol. The unconscious manipulator is haunted by trauma, by abandonment, by shadows he refuses to face. So he finds someone to live them for him. That someone is you. You become the emotional outlet for everything he can't process. And the more you love him, the more you lose yourself. Here's the cruel twist. Nothing you give will ever be enough, because this hunger has no bottom. No matter how much you sacrifice, it will always seem like too little. And when you finally try to set boundaries, he shuts down, goes quiet, makes you feel cold, unloving, selfish, and so you fold. Again, these relationships don't start with pain. They start with softness, with intimacy, with promises that feel deep but are symbiotic. You and the other become fused. His emotions become yours. His pain shapes your choices. His fear becomes your compass. And the worst part, the more peace you try to keep, the deeper the trap becomes. Every concession feels like guilt. Every silence, submission, every kindness, a reason for him to stay exactly the same. That's the trap. You think you're healing someone, but you're the one disappearing. The only escape, call it what it is. See the pattern. Drop the role of savior, fixer, emotional caretaker. You weren't born to repair people, especially the ones who refuse to repair themselves. In the next chapter, we meet someone even more dangerous. He doesn't force you, he inspires you. He doesn't demand masks, he wears one, and he'll invite you through silence and charm to put yours on too. Meet the persona carrier.
Have you ever lived with someone who seemed too perfect? Always polite, always balanced, always right. So right that you started doubting your own emotions? At first, it's admirable. You feel safe. You find it beautiful. Someone who never loses control. But over time, something shifts. You start monitoring yourself. You speak less, laugh less, express less. Until one day, you realize you're wearing a mask. A mask you don't remember putting on. You're living inside an invisible script, where every part of you must be edited, not by force, but by suggestion. This is the trap of the persona carrier. He doesn't attack. He doesn't dominate. He inspires you to vanish. His presence is so composed, so flawless, so rational, that everything alive inside you begins to feel excessive, too emotional, too spontaneous, too human. Jung warned us, the persona is the face we show the world. But when we mistake it for our identity, what once protected us becomes our prison. The persona carrier doesn't seek to control you. He's already controlled himself to the point of erasure, and without realizing it, he expects the same of you. He invites you to exist in halves. Smile, but moderately. Suffer, but silently. Shine, but always filtered. And so, you comply, because his silence feels like stability, his distance like wisdom, and his compliments, they only arrive when you're in the right tone, the right posture, the right emotional temperature. You feel welcomed only when you're subdued, loved only when you're balanced, accepted only when you're edited. But what does that do to you? You start questioning your lightness. You hide your pain. You avoid conflict. You silence your soul to fit a mold that was never meant for you. The house feels peaceful, but inside, you're drowning in noise. The persona carrier doesn't command. He inspires. But he doesn't inspire freedom. He inspires restraint. He turns your authenticity into discomfort, your pain into drama, your intensity into imbalance. And the worst part, you believe it. You begin to feel wrong for feeling. You thank him for tolerating you, instead of asking why you're being dimmed in the first place. This is the most sophisticated prison that exists. No chains, no screams, no rules, just invisible expectations that reshape you until you forget your own face. Jung warned again, the more we identify with the persona, the less access we have to our shadow, and the less whole we become. But wholeness has a cost, because the day you dare to show up fully, the persona carrier pulls away. He flinches. He belittles you with gentle words, or simply disappears, as if you'd broken some sacred unspoken pact, a silent agreement to keep your chaos hidden, to stay small, to never shine too loudly. But what happens when that smile, the one masking everything, starts to crack? In the next part, we're going into the basement, because the persona may be the smile, but what lies behind it? Rage, jealousy, shame, pain, repressed, until it rots. And when it finally explodes, everyone nearby pays the price.
There's a type of person who seems perfectly in control, never explodes, never lashes out, never shows anger, jealousy, frustration, or sorrow. Always fine. But this fine isn't peace, it's repression. It's everything once felt, but never accepted. Anger, unacceptable. Sadness, weakness. Envy, shameful. And so it's swallowed, and swallowed, and swallowed, until it rots. Carl Jung once said, "What you deny in yourself doesn't disappear. It becomes your shadow, and the shadow doesn't vanish. It waits. It waits for a trigger, a word, a misstep. Then it erupts, with a force that feels inhuman. The bearer of repressed shadow doesn't scream at first, but one day, over something trivial, they crush you, with sarcasm, with indifference, with contempt, with a silence so sharp it cuts, and you're left confused, because nothing you did justifies it. You start second-guessing. Did I overreact? Was I too harsh? But it was never about you. It was about what they refused to face within themselves. Living beside someone like this is like walking through an emotional minefield. You don't know where the danger is, because the danger isn't outside, it's inside them, fermenting. And the most brutal part? They think they're fine. They think they're fair, balanced, reasonable. They're proud of their restraint. But when they break, you absorb everything they buried. So you start tiptoeing, weighing every word, avoiding every topic, swallowing your truth, just to stay safe, until one day you're living under the emotional dictatorship of someone too afraid to confront their own soul. Jung warned us, what is not integrated will be projected, and what is projected will be attacked. Their repressed shadow is now on you. Your lightness bothers them. Your freedom triggers them. Your truth offends them. You become a mirror of everything they can't bear to see in themselves. But they don't know that. They truly believe you are the problem. Your tone, your attitude, your inconvenient intensity. And the more you explain yourself, the more they feel justified. You shrink, they harden, until you don't even know what's yours anymore. You start apologizing for existing, lowering your voice, shrinking your presence. And the most dangerous part, you start to believe it. You think you deserved it. Should have been more careful. Maybe you really are the problem, but you're not. You're just absorbing the poison they've refused to process for years. Emotional repression is not maturity. It's fear dressed as composure. And when it explodes, anyone nearby pays the price. In the next part, you'll meet the most unstable and dangerous archetype of all. Here, the shadow isn't hidden. It lives on the surface, but changes its shape. One day they love you, the next, they destroy you. You never know who you'll wake up beside. This is the emotionally complexed, the cycle of unstable love, of affection that wounds then begs for forgiveness, of chaos that wears the costume of sensitivity and drives you insane. Have you ever known someone who lifts you up one day and crushes you the next? Someone who hugs you in tears, but then lashes out in anger the following day, without any clear reason? They say they love you, but their words feel like they were crafted to break you. This person isn't cruel. They're chaotic, ruled by emotions they don't understand. They don't hate you, but they're bleeding inside, and you've become the bandage. Carl Jung explained that we are made of complexes, emotional cores built from trauma, rejection, humiliation. When these complexes go unhealed, they take control. The emotionally complexed person doesn't react to you. They react to a wound from long ago. You say something small, they hear an old abandonment. You make a mistake, they relive rejection. You set a boundary, they feel crushed all over again. But they don't see it. They think it's you. They swear it's your fault. They believe this pain was born today, when in truth, it just got reactivated. And that's when the cycle begins. Intense affection, emotional outburst, apology, more affection, more outbursts. A psychological loop where logic evaporates, where you walk on broken glass without knowing which cup it came from. In the beginning, you try to understand. You believe that with enough love, it will stop. That if you're more careful, the chaos will quiet down. But it won't. Because the problem isn't you. It's a script written long before you showed up. And now you're just playing a role. The most dangerous part? They believe their emotions. They're convinced you were cruel, that you triggered the abandonment, that you're the source of their pain. But you're not. You were just standing too close when their wound decided to bleed. And when you try to walk away, they cry, they promise, they swear they'll change, they tell you they love you, and you believe them. Because you've seen their good side, you've seen the light in their eyes, the real pain, and you think maybe just a little more love is all they need. But it's not, because no amount of love can heal what only self-awareness can touch. The emotionally complex need to face themselves, to name their shadow, to own their pain. But until that day comes, you'll be the one paying the price. So you start shrinking, avoiding subjects, walking on eggshells, until one day you wake up exhausted from living in fear of the next fire. And the saddest part? They're not evil. They're trapped. But you can't chain yourself to someone else's prison. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, It will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Their fate is to repeat. Yours is to break free. In the next part, you'll meet the most disguised archetype of all. This one doesn't scream, doesn't cry, doesn't explode. He judges, with silence, with cold remarks, with a stare that shrinks you without saying a word. His name? The moral controller. And he doesn't want you to be better. He wants you to be what he deems right, even if it costs you your soul. Some people don't scream, they don't cry, they don't beg, they judge, with silence, with stares, with perfectly measured words that cut like razors. And you start to shrink. You question your lightness. You doubt your freedom, because everything you are feels inappropriate around them. The moral controller doesn't want to understand you. He wants to correct you. And the worst part? He does it with calm, with serenity, with a fake sense of superiority that never needs to raise its voice, because it already believes it's above you. Carl Jung once said, "The greater the light someone tries to project, the darker the shadow they're hiding." And that's exactly who the moral controller is. A polished surface built on the fear of admitting his own chaos. He doesn't embrace, he reshapes. He doesn't talk, he sentences. He doesn't let you feel, change, fail, or even breathe outside the lines. You laugh, he calls it immaturity. You cry, he calls it weakness. You assert yourself, he calls it arrogance. And slowly, you begin to disappear. You soften your spontaneity. You mute your voice. You edit your gestures, until what's left is a tamed version of yourself, one he tolerates but never truly loves, because his love comes with conditions. You must be mature, balanced, evolved, but only by his definition, a ruler that never measures with fairness, only with control. The most vicious part? You begin to believe him, that maybe he's right, that maybe you are too much, that maybe you do need to adjust. But adjust to what? To an emotional prison built on the denial of human desire? Behind all his rigidity is just fear. Fear of feeling rage, fear of admitting envy, fear of desiring what he condemns in others, fear of being human. So he projects it all onto you. He calls you weak because he can't admit his own fragility. He calls you reckless because he represses his anger. He calls you selfish because he hides his own neediness under moral phrases. Jung warned us, morality used as a shield is not ethics, it's a symptom. And when you live under someone like this, you start to carry a voice that isn't yours, an inner critic that paralyzes you, sabotages you, silences your joy, kills your spontaneity, makes you scared to fail, scared to laugh, scared to live. But no one grows under judgment. They just learn to repress. And repression isn't virtue. It's pain, dressed as ethics. If you were raised by someone like this, or still live with one, you probably still hear the voice. You should control yourself. You have to be better. You can't mess up. But yes, you can, and you must. Because only those who allow themselves to fail can ever truly grow. In the final part of this series, we'll dive into the darkest archetype of all. This figure doesn't yell, judge, or break down. It drains, quietly, relentlessly, until there's nothing left of you. This is the psychic vampire, and maybe he lives in your house, or maybe he lives inside you. It's not the scream that destroys you, it's the silence of someone who needs you so much that you begin to disappear just to avoid leaving them alone. You don't even know when it started. You just notice you're always tired, sleeping poorly, overthinking, carrying a weight that has no name, but has an owner. The psychic vampire doesn't want to hurt you. He just wants to keep you close. And to do that, he empties himself. He appears fragile, sensitive, dependent. He doesn't attack. He pleads. But his pleading doesn't come in words. It comes in long stares, in heavy sighs, in repeated stories that always cast you as the savior. And without realizing it, you accept the role. At first, it feels like love. You feel important, needed. But after a while, you don't feel anything at all, because everything you had has already been given, and he still needs more. Carl Jung called this a psychic symbiotic bond. It's when two people stop being two and become a system where one survives by feeding off the energy of the other. You no longer have space to be yourself. You can't sit in silence without guilt. You can't walk away without being accused of betrayal. You can't breathe without fearing you'll hurt someone who claims to love you, but only knows how to exist through you. And the cruelest part? He doesn't even know he's doing this. It's not evil. It's emotional hunger. It's chronic dependence. A void so massive that every presence becomes food. You say no. He cries. You set a boundary. He falls ill. You take time for yourself. He vanishes, as if betrayed. And you go back, because you can't bear the guilt. But the guilt isn't yours. You're just trying to stay alive. But to live like this is to die slowly. You wake up more exhausted than when you went to sleep. You become irritated with those you love. You begin to decay, emotionally, spiritually, existentially. Jung warned, the greatest obstacle to individuation is the symbiotic bond, where one must fade so the other can continue to exist. And you've been fading too much, saying yes too much, saving too much. And now, you can't hold yourself up anymore. The brutal truth: you will never be enough for someone who lives off lack, because that hunger has no end. And if you don't leave, there will be no one left to save. Not them, not you. Sometimes, loving someone means leaving them alone with their pain. It's the only way to force growth, and the only way to avoid dying beside them. So hear this well. Either you save yourself, or you drown trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. If you made it this far, it's because you felt it too. Maybe you've lived with one of these profiles. Maybe you were one of them. Maybe you still are. And that's okay, because what destroys isn't the shadow, it's refusing to see it. Awareness is the key, but courage is the door. Now answer honestly. Which one of these archetypes once controlled your life? Which one do you fear becoming? Write it down, with courage, because you never know how many people you might free just by being the first to speak. And if this video tore something open inside you, you're in the right place. Here, we don't run from the shadow, we walk through it. You can scroll away, you can close this tab, you can go back to the SAM, or you can make one decision now. One decision. You can hit subscribe and step into a space where the truth is brutal but liberating, where being awake doesn't make you weird, it makes you danger. Because here, we don't worship positivity, we eat. So yeah, you can keep playing nice. You can keep being the guy who swallows everything you see, or you can join the only channel that respects your darkness, challenge, and gives voice to what you've buried for years. Crackdown isn't faux, but if you're still watching, it's probably for you. So hit subscribe, like this video and see I'm done pretend. That's how this starts. Not with noise, but with a decision.